Greetings. You are watching the Mystical Stories, and that means you are ready to make the right choice. Today, I will tell you stories, and you decide whether to stay in superstitious fear all your life, or maybe it is time to stop. And think about whether you're on the right track. Mariana was in a panic. She didn't know where to run away. Only one thought rushed into her head. Her hands were tied. She ran out of the house and jumped into the back of the car in the yard. It was the only shelter she could find. Mariana's heart was beating so fast that it seemed she would be found by his feet, and two men were running after her. Shining flashlights, they stopped by the car. An old woman ran out of the mansion and demanded to bring her another victim if they had missed the girl. The moon was about to leave. We must hurry up. One took the old woman back to the house, and the other threw an axe into the back of the car, where Miriam had hidden. The second servant of the old woman immediately went on a new hunt along the streets of the night city. While he was looking for his next victim, Mariana tried to free herself from the ropes tying her hands and try to stop the blood which was still gushing from the fresh cuts. The main thing was to get to where people could be. At last, the car slowed down. The tall man silently pursued the unsuspecting girl, got out of the back of the car, and ran for all she could see. She ran into the first open door. It turned out to be an art gallery. An exhibition of a popular local artist was opening that night. The visitors of the gallery, connoisseurs and collectors, were strolling about the art gallery. Suddenly, Mariana ran out into the hall, screaming for help. It was the last thing she remembered. Her strength had left her. She collapsed without consciousness. Investigator William had been... It was a cold case. 15 girls were missing and not a single witness. No one saw anything. The investigator had no clue. And finally, one of the missing girls was found, the investigator's assistant reported. The parents identified the 17-year-old Mariana. William decided to go immediately to the hospital and interrogate Mariana. He could hardly recognize the pale and gray-haired woman as the pretty and smiling girl in the photo. The investigator tried to ask Mariana questions about what had happened to her, but the girl was clearly not herself. Her frightened look was directed to one point. She did not remember anything and generally had difficulty speaking. William left her his phone number in case she remembered anything, and left the room. William was disappointed. He was very hopeful that Mariana would help him in the investigation of this hopeless case. The investigator understood the girl's testimony was all he could count on. There was no hope that anyone else would be found. All he could do was wait until Mariana came to her senses. But how long? Month? Year? How many more girls would suffer 2 weeks later at the doorstep of his office? Mariana was awake and able to tell what had happened to her. Her memories were confused, but it was better than nothing. Mariana did not understand where she was. Her hands were tied and her veins were cut with a dagger. Some scary hunchback was lifting Mariana's body on a rope. Suddenly, the hunchback's cloak went up in flames. While he was trying to put out the flames, Marianne managed to free herself and run away from the ritual hall. The criminals could not find the fugitive, and she managed to get to the city. Marianne remembered the name of the village, who these people were, and what they were after she did not understand. The next day, William went to the village mentioned by Mariana. The investigator was ready to do anything he could to shed light on the mystery. He would ask everyone he met. He would enter every house, just to find that strange old woman and her entourage. One of the residents of the village showed William a house, similar to the one described by Mariana. A huge, expensive mansion. Behind the deaf-high fence, nothing to see. Suddenly, a lame hunchback approached the fence and went through the gate. William followed him. He was ready to see anything. A gathering of Satanists, cripples, and freaks. But in the yard, he was met by a charming girl who knew that he was an investigator. She offered to enter the house, and she will answer all his questions. William found himself inside a luxurious mansion. Old furniture, stained glass stucco. All was furnished very expensive and tastefully. Showed the girl photos of Mariana. Diana so introduced herself. Hospitable hostess poured red wine served the investigator. She replied that she had not met the girl, and playfully added that if he was interested in such a beautiful young lady, she might be able to help him. Diana was clearly seducing William. In addition, he felt that from the wine he had drunk, he felt ill, and his eyes were swimming, and his head rattled, and he could not breathe. William woke up only when some big guy, apparently the one Mariana had told him about, was dragging him down the hallway of the gloomy and damp basement. The big guy had an axe in his hand. He was determined. He seemed to listen to his mistress, and now he was going to do her next order, to remove the witness. William took advantage of the interruption and attacked the executioner. A fight ensued. The investigator had had to apply melee techniques many times in his life, and this time it saved his life. Overcoming his weakness, William searched for the exit from the cellar. He almost became a prisoner again, but good reaction did not fail. The big guy was crushed forever. His legs could hardly support William, but he had to hurry. He might be able to save someone, and most importantly, to apprehend the ruthless murderers. The old witch was in a hurry too. She had to have time to perform the ritual ablutions before the first sunlight. The old woman was noticeably nervous. Everything was going wrong lately. First, the girl had run away. Now the police came apparently on a tip from the fugitive. While nothing her man had already finished with the nosy investigator, the witch did not intend to stop. The blood of the girls was vital to her. Without such a bath, she would turn into an old woman and soon die. William flew into the room and saw that the young girl was suspended, and the blood from her hands was dripping thinly into the tub where the nasty old woman was doing her ablutions. Having come to his senses from what he saw and threatening with a pistol, he ordered him to untie the girl immediately. And after the shot, the hunchback fell down, and Diana came out of the bath. She was dazzlingly beautiful. William hesitated even for a moment, for he had seen with his own eyes that only a moment before she was a horrible old woman. William ordered him to let the girl go. Diana did not comply. Then the investigator tried to shoot, but the gun did not work. William reloaded the gun. He felt that he was losing his willpower. His hands did not obey. His thoughts were confused. Diana bewitched him. The last second he pulled himself together. William intercepted the witch's blow and aimed his own dagger at her neck. The girl Diana tried to sacrifice was neither dead nor alive. From fear, she will never be able to forget the whole nightmare. The girl was saved. That was the last victim of the bloodthirsty old woman, no longer dangerous witch. The police found the corpses of all the other girls. The witch and her assistants had buried them nearby when the police returned for the body of the witch herself. It was not there. The corpse had disappeared. The body of the bloodthirsty mistress was never found. It was better to think that she had turned into ashes, as no longevity is worth human lives. Remember the fairy tale about the goldfish? The old woman was ruined by greed. She did not have enough sense to stop in time, and our heroine got what she wanted. She suddenly realized that it was not enough, but even the highest powers have infinite patience. Irene was depressed. Everything in her life was not going well. She was just haunted by trouble. She had just been fired from her job. She had been vilified. But what bad luck. To Irene's surprise, the car stopped and a woman got out and started apologizing. Suddenly, she addressed Irene by name. It was Irene's classmate, Vlada. She immediately put the woman in her car needed to make up for her bad luck somehow. She felt terrible that successful Vladia saw her in such a state. Her classmates were sitting in a cozy cafe, and Irene shared with Vladia her conclusions. She has been fired from her job. Her loser husband is a drunkard. She does not know how to live. Having listened attentively to Irene, Vladia wrote down her telephone number and address. This woman is a witch. She will help. Irene only shrugged her shoulders. Confused, she did not really believe in witchcraft at home. Everything went on as usual with the hangover. Adrian was not happy about everything and was only looking for a reason to pick on Irene. And now he was going on at Irene because of as if a badly washed shirt. Another quarrel developed into a scandal. Her husband took all the money from Irene's purse and left. Irene was in despair. She knew he would get drunk again. Woman resolved to go to the address that Vlada had written to her, and to fortune-telling, there was nothing to lose. Irene had no money, she brought food. A classmate said that the sorceress refuses nothing. There was a glass ball in front of the exotic-looking woman, and Irene had only seen such things in movies. She told the witch that she really wanted to change her life for the better, to become rich, successful, and not to know the need for anything. The witch answered she could help, but it would be necessary to sacrifice something. Wealth is not given without a reason, and Irene was ready for anything. The witch read the balloon thoughts and wishes, and she will fulfill all that the woman dreams. Since that day, Irene's life has changed radically. Now she worked as a top manager in a large company. She received good money. She left her husband and temporarily settled in a hotel. Irene felt like a queen. Pretty soon, Irene bought her own apartment. She lived in ease and luxury, but somehow there was no peace. She was tormented by nightmares. This sense of fear, foreboding trouble haunted her. And in reality, Irene did not know she became an intolerant, rude, and authoritative woman. As if she forgot that not long ago she herself was in a vulnerable and dependent position, Irene did not tolerate criticism, objections. Even from the company president, she acted as if everybody around was obliged to her. Irene decided to leave the office before the end of the day. She needed to relax, to go shopping, to please herself with something lately. She used to relieve her stress. But as soon as she came to her car, an unknown man stunned her with a blow on the head, took the keys, and drove away in her car. This time, Irene did not come in. She burst into the fortune-teller. What is going on? Why trouble is descending upon her like from the horn of plenty? The witch explained she warned about the high price for wealth and luxury, but Irene demanded an even higher position. She wanted to run the company. The witch tried to object, or the consequences could be dire, but the woman would not listen. Here's the fee. Let the witch do her job and don't care about the consequences. And once again, Irene got her way. Now she was sitting in the presidential chair. She had dozens of employees, a personal guard, and a secretary. But this did not bring Irene the joy she expected. Her health was getting worse, and she felt worse day after day. Irene took handfuls of her medicine, but it did not help. The pills made her weak and sleepy all the time, and the woman had more intrusive nightmares. One of her visions was chasing her and wanted to kill her. A sudden call at the door snapped her out of the nightmare. Now she slept through the day. Irene's secretary brought her the best doctor in town, as he promised. The doctor said that Irene's condition was very bad and prescribed other new generation drugs. These should help, but Irene no longer believed in her own recovery. She felt so bad that the woman fell into a complete apathy. Was this the price she had to pay for a happy life, to die alone? Irina stood on the threshold of the sorceress's apartment again, but no matter how much she rang and knocked, nobody opened the door. The door was unlocked, and the woman went inside. The witch did not even want to look in Irene's direction. She had done everything she had asked for. Irene fell on her knees and begged for the return of the most precious thing she had. Her health, she understood, she asked for. Now she knew the most important thing in life. Love. The witch did not utter a word, but it seems the witch took pity on her very soon. Irene met the man of her dreams. She hastily filed for divorce. Not a month later, Ethan proposed. Irene and Ethan were married, but Irene's happiness was clouded by her illness and fear of imminent death. She decided Ethan should know everything. The woman told her husband that things were very bad and she might die soon. But before she died, Irene wanted to thank Ethan for the short, happy time he had given her, and she put all her possessions into his name. Her husband tried to convince Irene that she would get well. Everything will be all right. He'll take her to a better hospital tomorrow for a checkup. Irene did end up in the hospital with her hands strapped to the bed. She didn't know if it was a dream or a reality. Her mind was blurred. Her eyes were full of familiar images. There was Vlada. She seemed to be mocking her. And there was the same witch. And there was Ethan. They all wanted her dead. Irene jumped up from horror. It was just another nightmare. She dialed Ethan's number, but his was not answering. The chair her guard was sitting on was empty. The nurse on duty couldn't explain her anything. She kept trying to dial Ethan's number cell phone, home phone, but her husband seemed to have vanished into thin air. Irene finally got through to her secretary, screaming for him to come to the hospital right away and explain what was going on. The young man told Irene that Ethan owns everything now he has taken her apartment and her belongings. He had blocked her bank accounts. Irene could not believe her ears. There was no love involved. Irene turned out to be a common swindler, a gigolo who brazenly used her. When Irene tried to talk to the scoundrel, his bodyguards who had guarded her yesterday would not even let her near him. Now she had nothing to do but to return to her old apartment. She was terrified. Adrian took out everything there was to sell. The same shabby furniture, her drunken ex-husband, and uncertain future awaited her. She was in misery again. She should have known no other life. The memory was too painful. Life is a big lottery, and it's good when you get a winning ticket. But if you do not learn to control your gamble, your life can change dramatically, and God willing, do not stop there and be reasonable. If you like scary stories, subscribe to the channel, like and I Was With You, and the channel of mystical stories.